gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's December the 21st, 2023, the day after National Signing Day, which means we have an exhausted CaneSport team. But I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined today by managing editor Matt Shodell, who was reamed out by Mario Cristobal at yesterday's press conference, and Stephen Wagner, who is this close to delivering Jeremiah Smith to this recruiting class. We'll talk about that in a moment. As we discuss the news of the day, presented today by GameTime.co, your headquarters for all your ticket needs, not just for the holidays, but year-round for sporting events, concerts, theater, you name it. GameTime.co will hook you up with the best seats at the best prices, giving you the best deals and the best views of where you'll even be sitting, and really good with last-minute deals, too. And we'll talk a little bit more about Game Time later in the show. But it was game time yesterday, fellas, from Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. And there is not a game any year that Mario Cristobal doesn't own better than National Signing Day. And the Miami Hurricanes, by the time they were done, even though they lost running back Kevin Riley at Alabama, had surged to number 4 in the country in the team recruiting rankings. While Steven Azubi and I were gallivanting around town checking out signings, we put Matt in the lab, okay? And said, Matt, your job is to go in the lab and monitor these signings all morning long and make sure the stories get up on our website on a timely basis. And Matt did his usual spectacular job. Then he made a mistake, okay? He came out of the lab, okay? Which means that the outside world had to deal with his annoying self. And he comes to the Mario Cristobal press conference, and he decides that he is going to ask a question. No, not a question. He could have asked a question. He says to Mario, I have 3 questions for you. And so Mario takes out his notepad, and as Matt's talking, he scribbles down the questions one at a time. And then he looks at Matt and he says, screw you. I'm not answering any of your questions. And the 40-minute press conference, which thank you, Mario, for giving us that degree of time. It's his time is very precious. He's got a bowl game to prepare for where his mentor, Greg Schiano, is laying in the weeds there up in the Northeast, like seriously thinking, how can I kick Mario's butt in this bowl game? Because it would be the world to Rutgers. Well, anyway, so Matt got destroyed, quite frankly, quite honestly. But all in all, it was a good day. Matt, by the time you exited with the wounds all over you and fatigue from the absolute blitz of National Signing Day, what were your thoughts?
Well, let's live in the real world for a minute. The reason I had to ask a 3-part question is because these freaking other reporters wouldn't stop asking stupid nonsense questions. Tell me about Saquon Patterson. Like, we don't already know he's really good. Oh, talk about the wide receivers. Talk about the offensive linemen. We know they're good, man. We don't need those stupid quotes. All we care about is my 3-part question, which is what I finally was able to ask after these moron reporters, including Gary Ferman. We're asking. Well, you didn't ask anything. We're asking.
I was just chilling.
And all I said to Mario, I said, Mario, this is actually what I said. I said, Mario, I know you love 3-part questions, so I'm going to give you a 3-part question. And he starts, oh boy, whatever. And then
because he watches this show. He watches this show, and he's about had it with your negativity all year long. And he just shoved it in your face and delivered the number 4 recruiting class in the country.
And so then I started asking the first part of my question, and he started scribbling down notes. And I said, Mario, these aren't complicated questions. I said, you don't need to take notes. Maybe I shouldn't have said that in front of the entire booster club and, Dan Radakovich and whoever else was behind me. But
it wasn't the National Comedy Hour. It was a press conference. So
can I talk for like more than 30 seconds? You don't need to ad-lib nonsense in the middle of my stupid sentences, okay?
Having fun.
Nobody else is having fun. No one's having fun right now.
This was a wonderful moment in time.
I'm having as much fun as Steven Wagner watching you eat at whatever that wings place is that you go to with all the hot chicks. So anyway, I maybe that'll set you up. So I go
Hooters. Oh my God, man! You're talking about Hooters.
It's like,
at least you didn't get me in trouble and say Tootsies or something.
It's like a Jeopardy, Steven. You have to say what is Hooters, so you got it wrong. But anyway, so see now I lose my train of thought because of my ADD, Gary. You got to stop interrupting. So I asked him the 3-part question. I was writing it down. Whatever. My first part of my question, if I remember correctly, was if he expects to have a portal quarterback signed before the new year. The second part of my question was, would he be okay not having a portal quarterback in the spring and waiting if it came to it? And the third part of my question was an update on Emory Williams and if he'll be able to participate in the spring, which honestly, I'm not asking these for myself. I think these are probably the most important questions at quarterback to you for fans. Like I was asking for the fans. And Mario came to my seat and he punched me really hard. And I punched him back, which is why I now have this on my arm. And we had a little fisticuffs. But no, in real life, he said something like, I already answered that, which he ignored when Susan Milogdegnan asked something similar. It wasn't really quite that. Just ignored that part. He answered the first part of her question, not that. And then he just said he didn't really want to talk about it, which is fine. And, after the press conference was over, I went up and you and I and a couple of the reporters, we talked to Mario for, 10 or 20 minutes afterwards. And, I like Mario a lot and he hates me a lot. And we get along great because of that. It's like a yin and a yang, a zin and a zen, a yin, whatever. I don't know how many other things I could even think of right now. I'm pretty tired. But, I have to get my matcha chai latte and then I'll be a lot better. But look, I think those are fair questions to ask. And the fact that any head coach in the country won't answer straightforward questions that I think fans really are interested in knowing and fans that love the program want to know is a little disheartening. I didn't take it personally. Gary obviously reveled in it. But, it is what it is.
I was loving every minute.
And you know what? I prefaced it by saying, congratulations on your terrible recruiting class. So, I put him in a good mood.
All right. Well, a couple things I thought. I mean, we went through most of the recruiting class on Monday's show. On this show, we don't need to touch on every single recruit. Obviously, it would bore you guys to death. But there were a few developments yesterday, in addition to Jeremiah Smith, that I thought we should touch upon this morning. I'll start with 5-star defensive lineman Armando Blunt. This was a wild recruitment, man. He commits to Miami. Goes up to Florida State on a visit. My sources tell me he got pummeled with an unbelievable NIL offer, which inspired him. They literally basically gave him let's call a spade a spade. They paid him to decommit from Miami and put on this whole spectacle of them stealing a recruit from Miami. It was the most phenomenal NIL deal he was going to get, blah, 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 blah. Well, over the course of the weeks, Miami chipped away. And finally, Miami was able to turn Jeremiah Smith back into the Miami camp. And based on everything that we saw last night at his ceremony in Lauderhill, he's a Miami Hurricane. He was all in and having a good time. And Zuby was there, and it was a festival of happiness and all good. But that catapulted Miami from number 8, Steven, to number 4 in the team recruiting rankings. How huge just are the optics of that for Miami?
Man, you're talking about a top 5 recruiting class at Miami. That's exactly what Mario Cristobal was brought here to do, to kind of put that fence up around South Florida. I mean, Mario's whole reputation, the one thing that Mario does better than almost any coach in the country, and you could make the argument he is the best coach in the country at this, is he recruits. He's an absolute animal in recruiting. He's the type of guy who can go up to a recruit and say, oh, hey, man, your neighbor's brother's girlfriend had a birthday that you were at like 2 weeks ago. I remember you mentioning that. How did that go? Like, he's the type of guy who remembers the most minute details about a recruit's life. He builds these unbelievable relationships with him. And quite frankly, it's a side of Mario that, we in the media very rarely get to see because of, kind of, the way that he, goes about conducting his press conferences and stuff like that. He's very formal, very professional, very quiet, very very low key, about a lot of this stuff. But man, I mean, like the real Mario can really, really sell recruits in a massive, massive way. And this is something that we haven't seen at Miami in a really long time. I don't remember when the last time was Miami landed the top 5 class. I think it might have been 2008. I want to say that Randy Shannon class. In Randy, I think that would have been Randy's first full recruiting cycle as Miami's head coach. I think that probably would have been the last time. I think they finished 3rd that year. Well, now Miami's finishing number 4. I know that they're going to end up in the top 5 in at least 3 of the 4 major recruiting databases. I need to take another look at ESPN and how they're ranking out the different classes. But man, I mean, you're talking about being able to keep home a guy who, through a lot of this recruitment, we honestly had no idea what was going to happen. I think we expected Armando to eventually commit to Miami, but maybe it happened a little bit sooner than we thought. Because remember, he started the fall as a 2025 recruit. And so he committed to Miami before the end of his junior year of high school. Then he reclassifies, flips to Florida State. We thought there was a chance he'd reclassify. We didn't think he would both reclassify and flip to FSU at the exact same time. Oh. And then Miami just kind of starts slowly chipping away, like you said. And before you know it, Mario Cristobal and Jason Taylor are giving him an in-home visit. And all of a sudden, it's incredibly apparent that Miami's not just a dark horse to flip him, or Miami's not just a contender. Miami's an outright threat. Miami, FSU fans should be kind of nervous about Armando Blunt. And then a few days ago, it became incredibly apparent to us. No, this will happen. I had the chance to talk to some people over the weekend, and they pretty much confirmed, this will happen. It's a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. And getting recruits, especially local recruits, this fired up about Miami. I mean, man, that's something that hasn't been done, frankly, since the last time Miami was legitimately, consistently, year over year, competing for championships. And yeah, they did have that great run in 2017 where they started out 10-0, ended up in the ACC championship game. They get throttled by Clemson or whatever, but that season proved to be much more of a one-off fluke rather than, the indication that sustained success is on the horizon. Because, the next year, I think they go like 7-6, and then, Mark Richt leaves and Manny Diaz gets hired. They go 6-7. And then the COVID year, they get really, really hot for a while, and then they ultimately end up disappointing, and Mac Brown absolutely destroys them at Hard Rock, and they lose to Oklahoma State. And then the next year, Tyler Van Dyke comes in, and all of a sudden, he is able to generate a little bit of momentum, and the future's really bright. And then Mario comes in, and you go 5-7. And man, it's just been like disappointment and disappointment and disappointment. But whenever you stack back-to-back top 5 classes, that's the indication that sustained success might really be on the horizon, because you have to stack this level of talent year over year. And whether it's through the transfer portal or whether it's through high school recruiting, you have to stack this talent year after year after year if you do want to have sustained success. Because the programs that don't, unless you have a literally unbelievable culture, like programs that say like Utah or Iowa, or schools like that are somehow able to consistently win big with 3-star recruits, it's really, really, really hard to be able to consistently be a contender in your conference without this level of recruiting. You look at the teams that were playing in their conference championships this game or this season, especially at the Power 5 level. I think Washington was really only like was really the only program I thought that was playing for a conference title that I didn't think was consistently recruiting at a wildly elite level. So I think that Miami is going to have, I guess Oklahoma State too, but that's not a conference champion. But I really, really do think that this is going to be some sort of indicator that Miami is setting itself up for some form of long-term success. And that's my.
What'd you say?
I said that's my rant. That's all I have to say.
Your
that's
rant.
my rant.
Okay. All right. Another one I wanted to talk about was the Darius Hayes. He was committed to Florida for months. Okay. And Miami kept watching film of him and saying, man, this kid is a really good player. This kid's a really good player. We screwed up. We were late to the game on this one. How can we get back in it? And they just, again, chipped away. Recruiting from behind is not easy, folks. I mean, it is very difficult. You got to take small wins from time to time and just hang in there and hope that you get to the finish line before signing day. Well, with Darius Hayes, they got to the finish line really, 3 days before signing day. You could kind of tell by the body language and just, everything, what he was thinking coming off his visit to Miami over the weekend. But they had to sweat it out till Wednesday. They did. Darius Hayes commits to Miami. Matt, I'm going to give this one to you. We've been watching these recruiting battles for a real long time. Sometimes the ones that you don't think you're going to win suddenly come through at the end. And I think Darius Hayes would fall in that category, but they seem pretty happy they got him.
Yeah, I mean, Steven's one who does the day-to-day recruiting stuff, and he knows Darius way better than I do. But in general, what I really like about—
I'm trying to give you equal time, Matt. Every time I ask Steven a question, he talks for 10 minutes. So I got to give you some equal time.
Well, I learned from Matt. That's the really funny thing. I saw this guy in the middle of my screen every time I come on here, and he never shuts up. And so I saw that and I thought, man, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to copy him exactly. And here I am. And I still haven't.
I saw the fan club that he's accumulated that just, they adore him. They adore him. They even comment on his haircut. He gets his haircut, which only makes his hairline recede even further. And people start posting on the YouTube comments how much they love his haircut. Like, they just love their Shodell. Mario can't stand his Shodell. His legion of fans on YouTube love his Shodell. And you're trying to build a legion of your own.
Well, I figured out I can keep doing this and I'm not getting fired. So I just kind of took that and ran with it. I figured out, man, I have this liberty and I'm not getting fired. So I'm just going to take this feeling and run with it.
Well, first of all, the people on the YouTube channel that are my fans, that's sarcasm. You guys obviously don't understand sarcasm. But anyway, about a Darius Hayes, it's not about a Darius Hayes. What I really like that Mario Cristobal has done, and Darius Hayes is part of this, obviously. It used to be pre-Mario Cristobal, and I've said all along, Mario's the best recruiting head coach I've ever seen. And I think the best in college football right now, period. Loves doing it. Most head coaches hate doing it. And what you see, it's not just the results, the number 4 class, number 8 class, whatever. It's how it is happening. Because in the past, remember, there'd always be surprises that were bad surprises, right? Where, they had a kid committed for months and bam, you go somewhere else on signing day. And that happened, I think, most years, honestly. And that is not going to happen with Mario, because Mario builds this trust factor with the recruits and with their families where they're going to tell him, they feel like part of the family. They'll just say to him, listen, here's why it's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. And they give him enough of a heads up that it's not throwing a hat of Miami, backstage and putting on some jersey of some other school or whatever, and disrespecting Miami, because that's sort of what Mario has earned throughout recruiting for the whole year. And like the Survivor finale last night, it's sort of like the Survivor finale. Mario's got to be the survivor at the end, and to be the survivor at the end with each recruit, you have to go through all these crazy challenges and just insane, eat food that looks like it's been sitting out for 3 months, I don't think they do those challenges anymore on Survivor, but that sort of thing. Like, you have to do whatever it takes to be the sole survivor. And like, that's what Mario does with every recruit. He's the sole survivor for every single recruit that they sign. And it is not just show up on signing day and they love Miami and they're coming. It's what Mario has built. And even he said at the signing day yesterday, when he wasn't screaming at me, he said, we got in late on Adarius Hayes. I think it was Adarius Hayes. He said, we didn't start recruiting him until 2 years ago. Other schools were recruiting him 3 years ago. He says, 2 years ago now, it's too late. So, and Mario, we talked to Mario after. I don't want to talk too much about it, but Gary and I talked to him with a couple other reporters, and it was off the record. But I don't think he'll mind me saying this, that he told us his eyes, like, he couldn't even see anymore. He couldn't even see straight anymore because he's been watching so much film, not just of recruits, but portal guys. Like, he is killing himself for this program, and I hope people appreciate that. We joke about, oh, he hates Matt Shodell. Oh, he hates whoever. Like, he doesn't hate us. He and I get along great. But, like, you have to respect him. You have to respect him. For the work ethic that he has, for the work that he puts in, for his desire to make the program better. And even if this doesn't work, even if they win 5 games next year, Miami fans should have nothing but respect for him no matter what. No matter what. They're not going to win 5 games. But what I'm saying is, like, he's doing it the right way. He's putting in as every ounce of effort to make this thing right. Whereas I saw other past coaches who wouldn't fix problems because it was just easier not to, right? It's a lot of work to fix problems. To fix one problem, even if it's a minor coach hire, a linebackers coach or whatever, running backs coach, whoever it is, like, that's a lot of work, right? You got to figure out the money with the buyout, the money you can pay for the position. You got to start interviewing candidates, going through stuff, finding out who they were recruiting, who they want, what type of thing. Like, it's a million things to do. It's a weeks-long process for every coach you want to replace. And Mario has no hesitation. He turned over almost the entire staff last year, right? And he almost turned off the entire roster last year. And this year, he's got to figure out how to cut 10 kids off the team after the bowl game. I mean, it's nonstop. And he deals with it and makes the tough choices and puts in the work that other coaches in the past, quite frankly, have not. I don't remember this level of work in recruiting since Butch Davis. I mean, that's just the truth. And I think Butch actually enjoyed the film study more than Mario enjoys. I'm sorry. He enjoyed the film study as much as Mario, but he did not enjoy the personal interaction as much as Mario does. Like, Mario loves getting to know these kids and these families. That's something Butch didn't do. Butch was a great film talent evaluator, probably even more so than Mario. But Mario has that component of just people are drawn to Mario. People like Mario. And Mario on the recruiting trail is just almost unstoppable, which, the only thing that can stop him, honestly, is if another school pays more NIL money, because kids and families love him.
All right, we've got a few more things we're going to talk about. But first, I got to take a moment here and talk about our sponsor for today, GameTime.co. They will make any ticket buying experience that you have just absolutely seamless. They're going to give you the best prices, the best seats at the best value, the best view of where you're going to sit. You're going to know exactly what you're buying and for where you're going every single time you make a purchase at GameTime.co. And basically, you should not have to worry about anything when you go to buy tickets to go have a good time at a game or a concert or a show at a theater. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, theaters, comedy, any type of event you want to go to. Game Time will have it with their killer last-minute deals, all-in prices. Like I said, the views from your seat and their best price guarantee. If you find a seat in the same section, same row, that's cheaper than what you buy with Game Time, they will replace it and give you a 110% guarantee on your purchase. They have flash deals, zone deals, easy to find tickets for every single event you'll ever want to go to. So go to GameTime.co or download the Game Time app, pick your event, pick your seats, go to checkout, enter the code CANES, CANES on your first purchase. They will give you $20 off. So that's GameTime.co, the Game Time app. Enter that code CANES, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. You will not be sorry if you make Game Time your go-to spot for all your ticket needs as you move forward and attend the events that you like to go see. All right. Steven, you're going to use Game Time next time you buy tickets, right?
I absolutely am going to use Game Time, just like I used Game Time the last time I bought tickets.
Yeah, Matt doesn't go to anything, so he has no use for Game Time.
Yeah,
But anyway,
he goes stone crabbing. That's about it.
yeah, but you don't have to buy tickets to go stone crabbing. You know, he invited me. He invited me to go stone crabbing with him and his buddy on that dingy little boat that we've shown on this show.
We're going out on Sunday.
I'm going to put my life in danger to go play with stone crabs. I very kindly said, you know what? I think I'm going to take a Pasadena, especially when he told me that they go at like 5 a.m. or something. I said, nah, that's way too early. All right. So we talked about how Matt pissed off Mario. Mario chewed him out. Okay. So then Mario goes back to his office and he says, you know what? I don't like that Shodell guy. I am going to piss the living crap out of that Shodell guy right now. And he calls up a kid, Marley Cook, okay, from Middle Tennessee, defensive lineman, right, Matt? Defensive lineman? Right, okay. Tackle. Marley Cook from Middle Tennessee. He calls him up, says, Marley, we want you to be a Miami Hurricane. Will you accept our scholarship offer to come join our 2024 recruiting class? And, of course, Marley Cook accepts. Okay, because he knew that this would just make Matt Shodell just cringe, you know, with his free agent, his whole free agent shtick that he gives us year round about all these recruits and the whole thing. He knew that this would really get under Matt's skin if he took this commit from a defensive tackle from Middle Tennessee to round out National Signing Day. He was successful, right, Matt?
What do you mean? I mean, I'm not going to bash the kid like you do. He's just not a free agent.
I'm not bashing him. I just knew that you wouldn't. I knew you would not consider him a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine. You know, he's started for 2 years at Middle Tennessee State. He wasn't a starter the prior 2 years there, and you know, sometimes you can't spend $1 million on every prospect on your roster. You don't have enough money. You got to have guys like this, I guess. He's here for 1 year, which means there's somebody on the roster that has to go, you know, in order for him to be on the roster. And hopefully they have enough people to send into the portal.
Well, in all fairness, like they took Thomas Gore last year from Georgia Southern, and Thomas Gore was not spectacular, but he was a workman, like part of the rotation. He gave them
we keep coming back to this. We either have Thomas Gore or a freshman. That's what I always come back to, right? Because a number's a number, you know? You open the number up a year later, fine, but you're still a year late in that number. You know, it could be a freshman who'll be a redshirt freshman, will be a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, whatever. Every time you take one of these guys, it could have been a freshman. That's all. Because of unlimited numbers this year and last year. There was no limit at all on transfers. Plus, you could have taken 85 transfers or 85 recruits each of the last 2 years. And that's just the way they do it. So
anyway, so the Matt Shodell philosophy, as you guys know, is different than the Mario Cristobal philosophy. So Mario gets under Matt's skin and he takes Marley Cook, adds him to the recruiting class at the last minute. But Matt, he is a loyal guy to you guys, our subscribers. And he takes it upon himself that he is going to write a story on Marley Cook. And he starts chatting with Marley Cook on Twitter messages. Okay. He says to Marley, he says, "Did you commit to Miami? Thanks, Matt from CaneSport." Marley says, "Yes, sirree. I had to keep it on the low." So then Matt says, "Congrats. Can I call you for an update?" You know what Marley Cook says to Matt? He says, "Let's chop it up." Exact words. "Let's chop it up tomorrow. My phone is going crazy." So not only does Matt get stonewalled by Mario Cristobal on National Signing Day, now he gets stonewalled by Marley Cook. But so not the best of National Signing Days for Shodell. This is great though. It's giving me good material for the show to just this is just like heaven, okay? That we could just sit here and like pound Matt the whole show. But yeah, so Marley.
First of all, what I do is called doing my job. The fact you find doing my job for CaneSport, which you own, is hilarious. Because like, could I stop doing this? Because I'm happy to stop doing it. I could stop doing my job if that would, if that's what you prefer. That's what it sounds like.
I just love. No, I don't. I'm not talking to you who are going to go on Good Morning CaneSport and say that I'm not a free.
I mean, I admit I should not have told Mario to stop taking notes on my 3-part question. That's the only thing I've done wrong at all, probably in my entire career. That's it. I shouldn't have told Mario to stop taking notes. He probably needed to take those notes because, probably when he stopped taking notes is when he decided he wasn't going to answer. He was probably writing down his answers. And I said, you don't need to take notes, Mario. You can remember this. And then that was the end of that. That was the end of my chance to get.
Well, I want to congratulate Marley Cook for getting into this very impressive signing class that's now number 4 in the country. Great opportunity for him to come in next year, play a little football for the Miami Hurricanes. We'll see how that plays out. All right. And the one other thing I wanted to make sure we talked about today was Zay Mincy. He's the defensive back from Daytona Beach. Crazy recruitment. I mean, Miami, we've thought Miami's doing well for weeks. And, then you start hearing, Florida, you start hearing Alabama coming on hard late. You really start having doubts. He was supposed to silent commit yesterday. He ends up not silent committing to anybody yesterday. Now we're hearing scuttlebutt that Alabama might end up being the one. He's not supposed to announce anything until he goes to the All-Star games after the first of the year. He's going to be out in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl. So we exit National Signing Day. Zay Mincy, who's a very high-quality DB, would be a very good part of this class, Stephen. And we have no clue what this kid's going to do.
Yeah, the other week I had a chance to, talk to some people around him, and I was confident enough after these discussions that I really was thinking to myself, man, I think I want to put in a crystal ball for this. I really was so confident in this that I really did think Miami was going to get Zay Mincy. And I know, some people on the board even asked me, and, while the race was still really, really tight, I was maybe slightly over 50% confident that Miami was going to be able to get this guy. And I kind of took that as a really, really good sign for Miami. It may just be 55%, but that number had only steadily increased as the year had went on. We knew Miami was on his radar whenever he came down for an official visit this summer. We knew Miami was in a good position for him whenever he came back for a second official visit. Not for a second official visit, for a second game day visit at the end of November for the game against Louisville. And we thought Miami was in a really tremendous position after he got his in-home visit in December. And we thought Miami was trending just straight up. Well, now Chad Simmons is reporting that he believes Alabama is making a very good move for Zay Mincy. That Alabama is absolutely trending very positively in the right direction. I think that right now, this recruitment is obviously very far from over. I think kind of in the same way that Jeremiah Smith's is, honestly, because Zay Mincy was supposed to sign somewhere in secret today. That ended up not happening. And I do believe Zay still plans to early enroll, which means just like Jeremiah Smith, he's going to have until Friday to actually go ahead and submit his paperwork if he wants to be an early enrollee. So I'm expecting him to be the focus of a lot of attention at that All-American Bowl down in San Antonio at the start of January.
All right, so we had an enormous amount of coverage on all these things and more on the website coming through the entire day yesterday. If you didn't get a chance to read it all, and you probably didn't because there was so much volume of it, we do have it indexed on the site. You can go back over the next few days, read everything at your leisure, and get caught up on all these new commits that are now signees of the Miami Hurricanes. We will also have continuing coverage. For example, today we take a look at Steven's superlatives, where he highlights some of the things that happened over the course of recruiting coverage, as well as grades for every position group. in the recruiting effort. So some are obviously better than others, and we take a critical look at the class, as critical as you could be with the number 4 class in the country. I mean, it's pretty good, but there are a few spots that might have been a little soft, and we'll point those out as well as we could critique the signing day class. Miami is working hard to try to land a transfer quarterback who would most likely be QB1 for the 2024 season. We're all over that, trying to figure out who that's going to be. And there might be other transfers that come into the mix as the team prepares to go to New York on Saturday to play Rutgers in the Pinstripe Bowl. And we obviously will have coverage leading up to that as well in the coming days as you enjoy your holidays. But that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. If you like this show, like our channel, and you're on YouTube, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithms in growing our audience. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, now is a great time. We have all this great recruiting coverage for you to check out. Come on over, join our community of fans. We got a really good group. Our message boards are great. You will absolutely enjoy the experience. So come on over to CaneSport.com and become a member today. So for Stephen Wagner and Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again, and we will see you next time, everybody.